Welcome to another Five Reasons Sports boxing special, this time on the mega fight between Canelo Álvarez and Terence Crawford, scheduled on September 13th at Allegiant Stadium at 168 pounds for undisputed. This it doesn't get any better than this when you got two top shelf guys who are willing to throw their records to the side for a shot at some real greatness. Today, we are joined by a very special guest. In the past, he has written for Boxing Scene, but you can find his work more directly on his YouTube channel at Reed BBS Boxing. Please welcome Sean Reed. How are you, man? And thank you for coming.
Mateo, my man, thank you for having me, sir. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you for coming once more. But I can't help myself. You just released a video on Moses Atama vanquishing Dillian White last Saturday, this current weekend, and I wanted to get your opinion on what do you think his next fight should be, because you've I know you have the opinion that Usyk is way too early, Alexander Usyk, the heavyweight champion, but what about someone like Daniel Dubois, who is coming off a loss to Alexander Usyk, and his career is perhaps maybe at a crossroads right now?
That would be a good fight, a favorable fight for Moses Atalma. I don't think Dubois would take it. I've read just this morning that there's shakeup in Dubois' team. He's apparently changing his trainers and whomever else is in his corner, which is normal. Guys take losses, bad losses in boxing. It's not unusual that this happens. But with that upheaval in Dubois' situation, the last thing he needs right now is a fight against this young monster in Moses Atalma. That would not end well for Daniel Dubois. I did a great fight for Atalma, not so much for Dubois.
I see. Now, transitioning to the this mega fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. Canelo having a record of 63 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws, and Crawford 41 victories and 0 defeats. What does something like this mean for the legacies of both men?
To me, it's pretty simple. There's a lot of fighters in the mix, but only one man can be the best fighter in the post-Floyd Mayweather era. To me, it's either Canelo or it's Terence Crawford. Now, there's probably Alexander Usyk fans watching right now saying, hey, what about us? What about our guy? He's in the mix, but the fact that Canelo and Crawford are A, in the mix, and B, they have a chance to get in the ring and settle it themselves, I would give them the edge, the winner of this fight, the overall edge in terms of the best fighter in the post-Mayweather era, even over Alexander Usyk.
That would be some definitely high praise for the winner of this fight. But when you look at their ages, Terence Crawford being 38 years old and with 41 fights, and Canelo Alvarez 35, but with a whole lot more. How does the attrition and their age play a factor going into this fight on September 13th?
There's no doubt, even though Crawford is older, there's no doubt that hold on. There's no doubt that Crawford, even though he's older, he's the fresher fighter here. He has less wear and tear. Even though the age, we have to rate Canelo in terms of boxing age. This man has been pro since he was 15 years old. It's not so easy to say, yeah, Crawford's older than him. Canelo, he's fought longer. He's, again, boxed since he was 15 against grown men, which means he's been sparring against grown men since 15 or earlier. So, yeah, Crawford definitely, neither man is in their prime. I don't want to get it twisted, but Crawford has more left in the tank, I do believe.
When you're looking at the challenge he has, is going up 14 pounds. His last fight, now over a year ago, it was against Israel Madrimov for the WBA junior middleweight title at 154 pounds, going up 14 pounds. How hard is it to maintain your speed and your footwork?
It's easier said than done, and there's a million ways to do it. It looks like Crawford is packing on muscle. I know as far back as about 6 months or so ago, we saw him bulking up, showing up to fights, in preparation for the Canelo fight. I question, though, does he maintain his speed? More importantly, how is his cardio? Because looking the part and you have the muscles, your physique looks good. You can wear the wife beater, or you can go shirtless and walk around all puffed up. But having to perform with that is something different. Having to perform with that in the seventh round, in the eighth round, in the ninth round, we just don't know. We're all guessing. We just don't know. And you have a motivated Canelo Alvarez pressing you all the while. It's going to be tough to. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because we just don't know. We just don't know.
Based off what there is to work with all of their fights, who would you say has demonstrated the best footwork so far of the two?
It would have to be Crawford. Canelo's footwork, one facet of footwork is balance. They both have real good balance most of the time. You rarely see either of them off balance. Front line attacks or retreats, Canelo's footwork is real good. The difference in the two is lateral movement, side to side, executing usage of distance and the ring. Crawford is superior in that regard, and his footwork is quicker than Canelo's is. So that's if there's a decided edge, it's definitely a footwork edge for Crawford overall. But with that said, Crawford is speaking as if he doesn't necessarily want to make this fight a track meet. He wants to try to make it. It's not talking about going toe to toe, but he's also kind of shunning like the Mayweather tactic against Canelo of using the ring, sticking and moving. Crawford, the way he's talking anyway, he isn't so much looking to beat Canelo that way, looking to dish out his pound of flesh more. But we'll have to see how it plays out.
You're right. The way he's talking, it kind of seems like he wants to do what Chris Eubank Jr. was doing against excuse me, against I'm sorry, what Conor Benn was doing against Chris Eubank Jr. earlier this year. I'm not saying that's he's in his class, of course. Terence Crawford is miles above that, of course, but we're going to end up seeing eventually what his strategy is on fight night. But when you think about who has had success against Canelo in the past, it's hard for me to, really think about, him doing something like Floyd Mayweather, just being able to elude danger at every corner. But, when you think about success, Triple G definitely had some in his controversial draw the first time against Canelo. Also the second time they fought, he lost, but he did have successful moments. Dimitri Bivol was able to kind of muscle him up and hit him with some combinations and get out of the way. How much of what those two guys did can be a blueprint for Terence Crawford?
What Bevo did probably will be the blueprint. Crawford can't match the strength and physicality or punching power that Triple G brought to Canelo. And because Bevo is so much bigger than Crawford and stronger, I would think that Bevo punches harder. He's not known as a puncher, but he's a significantly bigger man than Crawford. So I'd rather be punched by Crawford than Bevo because I think it would hurt more if Bevo were to hit me. So with that said, he can use some of Bevo's strategy, but Bevo's power was able to earn Canelo's respect in a way that I question if Crawford will be able to. I'll have to see him earn Canelo's respect because Canelo has a great chin. I've seen him hurt one time, and that was against that was against Miguel Cotto's cousin or brother, Jose Miguel Cotto. And this was very early in Canelo's fight. He's shown a great chin, and I don't see Crawford being able to dent that chin. So yeah, a little bit of Bevo's attack, but he won't be able to earn Canelo's respect the way Bevo did, I don't believe.
Sean, these fighters have two of the best trainers in the game. Brian McIntyre on Terence Crawford's side and Eddie Reynoso on Canelo Alvarez's side. Who has the advantage there?
I want to say neither, uh, but then you look at the Bomax had his fair share of fighters too. It just seems like Reynoso's list of fighters he's worked with is longer. So, more is more. If I have 10 of something, you have 6 of something, I win that. So I'll give a slight edge to Reynoso just based on the quantity of championship level fighters he's had. But we're splitting hairs. You're not hurting by having either man in your corner, either one of them.
For sure. As part of the pre-fight, preparations, they're selling the fight. I haven't heard too much of when Terence Crawford's resume gets criticized that Errol Spence Jr. gets brought up as an elite fighter, and it certainly felt like he was before he got smacked down by Terence. So, real quick before we continue, where do you stand on that? Is this some sort of mind game Canelo's playing with him?
In regards to what, dismissing Spence, or
Yes,
would he?
yes, yes, sir.
I don't think we can. I mean, the Spence fight was what it was. These were the two best welterweights,
Yeah.
and it was deemed a 50-50 fight going in. Now we know Spence had his accident and whatnot, but he had shown no ill effects in the fights leading up to Crawford. So, and I'm a Spence guy. I'm in Dallas, Texas. Did a lot of writing about Spence early in his career, and I was rooting hard for him. So I don't want to diminish what Crawford did. Again, we thought that was a 50-50 fight, and it certainly did not play out that way. So I kind of tend to just say, hey, that was just Crawford's night, one of the best championship level performances we've ever seen. It was Canelo may, I'm not sure why he's saying that, trying to diminish the Spence win. I really don't know.
I, you know, well, I think it's probably the best win of Crawford's career. If not, the Sean Porter fight. Sean was still an A-level fighter before T Terence took him out when he was told he was down in the corner and then just finished it off. That's another great win that it doesn't get the credit that it deserves. But now looking at Canelo, the last four fights, you look at William Skull, you look at Edgar Berlanga, Jaime Munguia, and Jermel Charlo. The Jermel Charlo one was one kind of people wanted to see, and Charlo disappointed in that one. But the other guys, the three of them, were not ready for that step up in competition, and Canelo didn't finish them after he pretty much, well, I don't think he really hurt Skull, but he didn't finish all of them when you expect him a fighter of his quality to be able to do that. So, what type of Canelo Alvarez are we getting? Is he going to be living up to the Canelo of old?
That's an interesting point that you bring up. Now, I don't blame Canelo for the Charlo fight or the Skull fight. It takes two to tango, and he didn't have a dancing partner that night. We have to examine the Munguia fight and the Berlanga fights, though, because of how they looked in their fights post Canelo. Munguia got knocked out by Bruno Saras. Then he got caught for using steroids in his rematch, which has been overturned against Saras. And then, of course, Berlanga, he gets done dirty by Hamza Shiraz in their fight. So it makes you wonder, like, wow, Canelo, I mean, he dropped both men, but he didn't really come close to stopping either. And yet here they were stopped in their next fights. Now, another way you could look at it is maybe Canelo took something out of both of them that weakened them and led to them not being the same fighters anymore. It's I'm kind of leaning towards the first bit of that. Like it's kind of eye opening to see, like Bruno Saras can't punch at all, and he knocked Munguia smooth out. Shiraz, he put on a lot of weight. He was fighting at 60, probably draining himself, and he looked huge at 68. But the fact that Canelo could not stop those men, and they were both stopped rather easily in fights right after Canelo, that takes me back to your initial point about Canelo having fought for so long. Despite being younger, we have to rate him in boxing years. And in boxing years, my man is long in the tooth. He really is.
Um, he didn't look the same cutting off the ring against William Skull either. It kind of looked like
Yeah.
more following than I'm accustomed to seeing from Canelo Alvarez. Such a tactic could not be so, well, definitely would not work against Terence Crawford. But when you look at Canelo, what is his path to victory against Terence Crawford?
His path. So I think the Skull fight first will play in Canelo's favor in this fight because we all saw the negativity Skull received, and rightfully so. So the last thing Crawford is going to do is come in the ring and use that exact strategy to a T. He's going to be a little more flat-footed. He's going to engage a lot more than Skull did. which can play to Canelo's advantage. Strategically, Canelo needs to punch. Whenever Crawford opens up to punch, you punch with him. Be willing to lose that battle because of Crawford's superior speed, but you may, as soon as he throws, you throw one or two punches with him. You can't headhunt against Crawford. Canelo needs to be willing to hit Crawford anywhere. If Crawford's covering up, beat up his gloves, beat up his arms, beat up his shoulders. Not in a dirty way, but hey, hit him on his hips some. If he's moving a lot, bang him on the hips a couple times, right on the edge of his trunks, just to kind of weaken his legs. Canelo needs to impose himself. This needs to be about physicality. He needs to make this a fight and not so much a boxing match per se, because people look at the height and Crawford's reach. There's no mistake here. Canelo's the bigger, stronger man, and he needs to fight accordingly. He doesn't need to trick it up and try to out strategize Crawford or Bomac. He needs to go out fight the smaller guy. It's really that simple.
You talk about him bringing the fight to Terence and being the stronger guy that can present bigger problems for someone going up in weight. But Terence Crawford has a wrestling background. How much does that help him, if at all? Because I know that the striking is obviously very different, but does it help him much to just to stay leveled? Because I don't think he's gone down. Oh, he hasn't gone down in his career legally.
He's had some flashes. I think the fight against Mean Machine, Kavaliauskas, he dropped Crawford to a knee. It wasn't ruled a knockdown technically, but I would say that's a knockdown.
Okay.
The wrestling will help him if they're in the clinch. Canelo isn't much of a clincher, though, so sure, it could help. His wrestling background certainly wouldn't hurt him. I don't think there'll be much opportunity for that. Canelo just needs to get his punches off. Whenever Crawford punches, punch with him. You have to be willing to. He may get there the first few times you engage. You just have to be willing to continue to do that and hope that at some point you're going to land something.
You've provided some exceptional analysis and a game plan for Canelo, or the path to victory for Canelo Alvarez. But Sean, how do you see this fight going? If you had to give a prediction.
I think that at some point, Canelo will convince Crawford that it'll be safer for him to use more of the ring and to fight a little more negatively than he wants to. And it's going to depend on how many rounds Crawford has pocketed at that point. Crawford is quicker. He's the better athlete. So as Canelo's figuring him out, I think he'll be losing rounds. Canelo was losing rounds against Munguia. Before he dropped Munguia, Canelo was losing that fight. So he'll be behind in this fight. It just depends on when he can catch Crawford, if he catches Crawford, when he catches him, and how much damage he can inflict. Crawford is not going to stop Canelo. So to me, the safe pick here is Crawford by decision.
Crawford by decision.
Crawford by decision.
Wow, it's certainly not the popular choice, but because Canelo is obviously the favored man in this fight. This is some bold stuff you're throwing out here. I love it.
Yeah, Crawford by decision.
Now, my last one for you, Reed, because you've been so awesome. Will the public win in this fight? Will it live up to the hype? Because the last fight, there was a fight this big. It was arguably, Floyd and Manny Pacquiao, and that was kind of a dud.
This fight will live up to it, for one, because it's on Netflix. So no pay-per-view dollars will need to be spent.
Okay.
Two, Crawford is very ambitious. If he could be the first fighter in the four-belt era to be undisputed at 3 weight classes, he's the best fighter since Floyd. He's one of the best fighters ever. At the same time, there's motivation for Canelo to not let a little guy move up and take what he's got. There's pride on the line for both men. And when the win-lose factor, when the risk-reward is balanced like it is here, we usually get good fights out of that. So I'm expecting a good fight, and we don't have to pay money for it. So that's win-win, brother.
Sean, you've been so awesome. Thank you so much for all of your analysis and your time. I thought this was so sick, and I'm sure the audience will too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mateo. Good speaking with you, brother.